Chair, fellow speakers, some of the memories surrounding my move to Swindon in 1965 are a little bit hazy, but I clearly remember the journey coming down. Tinged with nostalgia, the memory these images are etched vividly upon my memory. I could still picture myself, a nervous, excited teenager, feeling like one of the children of Israel, bidding farewell to Egypt, passing through the wilderness and heading to the promised lands, not in a caravan, but in a dirty, drab, grey, ugly Ford Popular, and so slow, 40 miles per hour, if we were lucky. Like tins of beans on a factory conveyor belt, we were part of the steady flow heading out of London. As dusk was approaching, the car headlights shone just a pale beam on the road ahead. We sat and shivered in our thick coats and chunky sweaters. Because the car didn't have a heater, well, I don't think it did. If it did have, it didn't work properly. We were leaving a chapter of our lives behind, but taking memories with us. Rows of houses that had once been impressive family dwellings, but now were drab, shabby, neglected bedsits. The 2 rooms we occupied on the top floor was in one such house. Although spacious, it was sparsely furnished. A black, grimy stove, a threadbare carpet, and furniture that looked like it had been left over from a jumble sale or bought from a scrapyard. We scrubbed, we cleaned, we polished, we did whatever we could. We bought a small television and decorated the fire surround with a wood effect fablon. But we could do nothing about the continual din that we experienced. Our landlord was an opera singer who took opera singing lessons at night. Oh! Something like that. It sounded like a cat was being strangled. And also, we had a main train line that ran along the front of the house. And behind us, a shunting yard. So at night, when we were trying to settle in bed, the house shook and rattled and vibrated. It was a noisy house. I kept my eyes focused on the road ahead. The journey seemed to go on forever. We were leaving the familiar streets of London behind and passing through the leafy suburbs of Surrey. Endless junctions and traffic lights. We joked, we laughed, we sang. We sang a song of an old gospel song that we sang at folk clubs. Something like this. I'm running up this road, it leads to Swindon, Lord. I can't tarry. This road, it leads to Swindon, Lord. I can't tarry. This road, it leads to Swindon, Lord. I can't tarry. I'm running up the King's Highway. Something like that. Our Exodus story, to go back to the beginning, had begun with us breaking a journey on our way back from a holiday in Wales to spend a couple of days in Swindon with a cousin. She had been given a house with the London Overflow housing scheme, and we wanted to know more. On our first morning, we rose early to spy out the land, and we liked what we saw. The streets may not have been paved with gold, but they were clean and free from litter. There were verdant green verges and open spaces, gardens with neat flower beds, and houses with colourful, gaily painted doors and panels that glistened in the sweltering summer sun. And instead of the stench of car fumes accosting our nostrils, we could smell fresh paint and newly mown grass. Sitting in Cavendish Square by the sparkling fountain, we planned our future. Swindon may not have the glitzy glamour of London, but we reckoned it would be a good place to bring up our family. There were parks where the children could play in safety, and within walking distance, fields to romp in with daisies and buttercups, and behind a black cloth of rolling downs and farmlands. My mind was made up. Swindon, here we come! A few weeks later, the housing officer came and gave our rooms a cursory glance. Lambeth Council accepted our application and the process was set in motion. John was told he had to find work in Swindon, and dutifully he left to stay with his sister, who was living in Park South. She had been given a house just a few months before. Then, just a few weeks later, Swindon Borough Council offered us a flat. The dream was becoming a reality. Our meagre possessions, a dirty old table, a dusty old table that John's sister had given us, a tatty sheepskin rug I'd had since I was a child, and boxes of wedding presents. 6 Pyrex casserole dishes in pristine condition, and 2 water sets, and an assortment of bedding and various other items were all bundled into John's brother's van, hopefully to arrive before we did. And then we closed the door on a chapter of our life as we shut the door of 77 Liam Vale. Passing and through Reading and Newbury, we became aware that the steady stream of traffic had now become just a trickle. Swindon seemed so very far from London. I remember thinking, whenever will we reach the promised land? Central heating, shag-filled, shag-piled carpets that we could dig our toes into, our own furniture. At first, until we searched out the second-hand furniture shops, we would be sleeping on the floor, surrounded by our few belongings. But this was going to be a real adventure. Going past Hungerford, I put down the map and I fixed my eyes upon the road ahead. John had asked me to look for road signs, but I was looking for the little darting rabbits that ran across the road. It was so strange and unreal. We hardly passed a car now, and the villages were few and far between. All around us was pitch black darkness that was enveloping us in our car like a cloak. Then, suddenly, ahead, we saw a sign. Swindon! We were unprepared for the sight that greeted us as we reached the brow of a hill. There, lying in the valley below, were hundreds and thousands of twinkling lights that sparkled like jewels in a dark velvet curtain. John stopped the car engine, and we sat in silence, holding our breath. And then we marvelled. Here was our promised land.